We're gonna go over a full workout, strengthen up your feet, strengthen up your support system. All you're gonna do is just rotate, drive the knee forward. All right guys, so let's first go over foot strengthening and why it's important for full foot functionality as an athlete or just a general person trying to live the healthiest life they can. So when it comes down to foot strength, the steps that we need to improve are: one, range of motion. So we need to increase mobility and flexibility of the foot. When you're stuck in shoes all day long, especially with the narrow toe box, doesn't allow you to get full foot range of motion. So we want to increase range of motion. We want to increase the mobility and the flexibility of the foot, right? Second thing is stability, right? Your feet are your support system, right? It maintains a level of center of mass and it creates that stability for you to move and do dynamic work, right? So we want to increase strength and stability there. Then lastly, plyometric. So we want to be able to produce force from the ground up. If you're an athlete, if you're a combat sport athlete, it starts from the ground. Our kinetic linkage from our strikes to our takedowns, it all starts from the feet. So we need to improve on the power production and overall force production from the ground up, all right? Now, when you look at the foot structure, you got 26 bones, right? You got 30 tendons, 33 joints, and over 100 muscles, intrinsic and extrinsic, inside of the feet. So yes, it is important for you to focus on your support system. I always say you need to make sure that you have a foundation so that you can build upon it, right? So think about the feet as your tires, right? If you are a car, you need to have a good set of tires. You gotta have a good set of wheels, right? So we wanna make sure that our feet are structured to do so. Now, when it comes down to barefoot training, right, our focus points are gonna be on improving structural integrity, right? The overall structure, and then you can build on the function after that. Foundational awareness, knowing where your body is in space, having proper proprioception, and actually feeling the ground as you go to walk and propel and move, so on and so forth, right? You also need to make sure that you're working tendon, ligament, and muscle strengthening. So we're gonna go over a full workout that is dedicated to increasing the strength, stability, and structural integrity of the feet of your support system. All right, so we're gonna get into the workout. I got two phases here. So one is gonna be the more beginner version, and then the second is gonna be more advanced or intermediate to advanced. We're gonna go over flexibility, mobility, strengthening, stability, and also plyometric and power activity to strengthen up the feet and the lower limbs itself. All right, so the first one is gonna be a static stretch, and we're gonna go into toe flexion. So all I'm gonna do is just curl my toes underneath, and then I'm gonna get a slight lean onto the toes. So I'm just stretching out the top portion of my feet. And again, you're keeping it more of a static stretch. You're gonna do 30 to 60 seconds, 2 sets through. Now, a scaled up version of that, you're gonna come down, you're gonna load that flexion. Now we're gonna move on to extension. So we went to flexion, now extension. All you're doing is driving the toes into the ground and then driving the knee forward, getting that stretch on the back side of the foot. Again, hold that stretch for about 30 to 60 seconds, 2 sets through. All right? You can progress this if you need more intensity. You come down and then you just sit back on your heel, getting a deeper stretch into the back of the foot. Again, same thing, 30 to 60 seconds, 2 sets through. All right, the next one, we're going to increase the ability to splay out the toes. So we're gonna do what's called a toe vise. So you're gonna take your fingers. Doesn't feel too good if you don't have that range of motion set in or if you're wearing narrow toe box shoes. But the spreading out of the toes is very important on push off when you're trying to be stable, right? So it helps with stability as you go to push off. Let's say for a takedown, right? A blast double or just a penetration shot, or if you're running and sprinting or just even walking, you wanna have stability there. And if your feet or your toes cannot splay out, you have less stability. So with that being said, let's open up and try to get more extension and splay of the toes, right? So we're gonna take our hand, you're going to interlock your fingers with your toes, and then all you're gonna do is just rotate, right? So it'll be roughly 10 repetitions, and then you're just gonna maintain this range of motion and this rhythm. Just 10 reps, and then you'll switch to the other side. And then after you do that, I like to just actively splay out the toes there, right? Just get more space, because that's going to allow you to have more stability as you go to propel and produce force going forward. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the ankle, and we're gonna do a dorsiflexion hold. So dorsiflexion meaning pulling the toes up, right? And plantar flexion is pointing the toes down. So we're gonna go into dorsiflexion. Basically, all I want you to do is get into what's called a combat stance. So you're gonna be here just like you're in jiu-jitsu, right? Ready to roll. And all I'm doing is driving my knee over my toes as much as possible without the heel coming up and without full collapsation of the arch, right? So we still want to keep a good arch, right? We still want to make sure that you're not, you know, compensating to get more range of motion. So just get into the position of where you have, and then work on that stretch. You're really stretching out the gastrocs, but primarily the soleus muscle, right? So we're gonna open up and try to drive further down so you get that stretch without compensation. So we're gonna hold here for 30 to 60 seconds, 2 sets through. All right, now a scaled up version of that, you can use weight, put it on the knee, and then just drive the knee forward, right? Now, obviously, you're gonna have some pronation of the foot because the knee is going over the toe, but you just don't want too much collapsation where the knee is getting stressed out. So maintain that position over the second to third toe where the knee's in line, right? We don't want to be too far inside. Again, same concept, 30 to 60 seconds, 2 sets through. Okay, now moving on to plantar flexion, very simple, right? Toes are down, right? We're gonna be loading that plantar flexion with our body weight, all right? So you're just gonna hold this position, go as far as you can without pain. Again, 30 to 60 seconds, 2 sets through. If you want to progress this, all you have to do is grab a weight and fall back, all right? That's obviously gonna cause more stress and more intensity for the stretch. All right, so now we're gonna move on to active range of motion, and we're gonna work from the toes and then up into the feet and the ankle. All right, first one we're gonna do is work through the big toe. So all you're gonna do is splay out your toes like we did with the toe vise, making sure that you have a wider circumference area of space so that you're stable. And then from there, I'm gonna lift my big toes up, and then I'm just gonna tap it back down and back up. So I'm just working the big toe only, right? And you're gonna do 10 repetitions, 2 sets through. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the little toes, so all the small digits. So you're gonna keep the big toe down, right? Maintain position, tap the little toes on the ground, pick them back up. Tap little toes on the ground, pick them back up. Again, 10 reps, 2 sets through. We're gonna move into short foot now, and we're gonna create an arch, right? A lot of times when you have dysfunction of the feet, you see a collapsed arch, you see flat feet. So we can actually train to gain more of an arch and gain more strength of the foot itself. So all you're gonna do, again, splay out the toes. You're gonna grab the ground with your toes and make sure that you have 3 points of contact with those. So big toe, outside toes, and the heel. And like an eagle's claw, what I want you to do is I want you to externally rotate and create torque, lifting the midfoot up, right? So all you're gonna do is take your knees and your hips, and you're gonna externally rotate and lift the midfoot up off the ground. So you can see an active arch there. You're gonna hold this, again, for about 10 total seconds. Relax, and then I want you to do 5 sets through. So 10 seconds, 5 sets through. Now, with that, you can also look to increase the intensity by loading in a position. You can also do single leg movements. So the load would be just me grabbing a kettlebell and now going into a squat while I'm maintaining the arch. So I maintain the arch, I maintain the arch, maintain the arch, and then drive back up, all right? You can do repetitions of 10 to even 20 reps just to get that stimulus, all right? Another way to progress it is go single leg. So now, same concept, splay out the toes, grab the ground, and lift the arch. Now I'm on one leg only, so I have to stabilize my body, one, and then also make sure that my foot does not collapse. You can use a second by second, so you can do 10 to 30 second holds for 2 sets through, all right? Another version is here you could take 2 blocks. Place your heel on one side of the block and place the first med head or the ball of the big toe on the other block. From there, let me go this way actually. From there, you're gonna maintain the arch. So you're not gonna let it collapse like that. You're still gonna maintain the arch and hold. What we don't wanna see is that happen. So the difference between that and that. You can hold for about 10 to 30 seconds, 2 sets through on both legs. All right, so the next one we're gonna work in range of motion, and we're also gonna increase the strength of the lower limbs and the ankles in general. So we're gonna go from dorsiflexion to plantar flexion, and we're gonna do this for distance. Now you can go 10 yards or you can go 20 yards. Really just depends on you and how well you're able to do it. So let's start off with 10 yards. You're gonna go into full dorsiflexion. So driving the toes up to the shin, you're gonna load the heel. So you're gonna drop the heel down. As you drop the heel down, you gotta maintain that dorsiflexion. As the hip goes through midline, right, you're gonna go from the rear foot to midfoot and then to the forefoot. So it's here, rear foot, midfoot, forefoot, hold, and then back down to the other heel. Again, hold, back down to the other heel, hold. So it's gonna go slightly in front of you. You don't wanna go too far in front because you'll lose balance. Make sure that the toes are splayed out. Again, you're gonna drive through, and then again, we're going roughly 10 to 20 yards. Now how you can progress that, grab dumbbells. You can grab 10, 15, maybe even 50 pounds in both hands, depending on your level of ability, right? Keep them in both hands and go through your heel toe walks. Same distance, just progress it over time. All right, so now we're gonna maintain stability in that plantar flexion, and then we're gonna actively drive the toes up. This is going to help you, or at least give you the prerequisite to go into your low-level plyometrics. So this is a penguin walk. We're gonna go ahead and elevate the heels. From there, I'm gonna load one side of the body, maintain position. Again, make sure that you can splay out the toes, grab the ground, and then lift into dorsiflexion. Switch sides, lift. You can put your hands on the hips, lift, lift, lift. You want full dorsiflexion, and then you want to maintain stability in plantar flexion. As far as reps go, 10 to 20 repetitions on each side. You can do 2 sets through. To progress this, again, you can have something in the front rack position, let's say a kettlebell. So you're here, drive up, and then we're flexing. All you do is add load to the motion. All right, so let's move on to our plyometrics. And we're gonna start off with the low-level plyos. You guys seen my videos before, you know we do a lot of these lower level pops, skips, bounds, and jumps. So today we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show pogo jumps. And all you're doing is just like that motion with the penguin walks, is you're going to drive the toes up as you go to hit the ground. The goal here is to increase tendon stiffness and elasticity, and it's just gonna give you strengthening of the feet itself and allow you to have better force production through the ground and utilize that ground reaction force. All right, so this is what we got. Hands on the hips, right? You're gonna go ahead, hit the ground and redirect force, right? We're here. So you're gonna be aggressive when you hit the ground and then redirect it, all right? You can progress this using load. So again, grab some dumbbells, put them in your hands and make it happen. Usually I would do 2 to even 5 sets of 10 seconds. Now, you don't just have to stay in place. You can go forward, you can go backwards, and you can go side to side. Change it up. Once you start to get a rhythm with that and you feel good, now you can start to go into single leg pogo jumps and do all those different ranges and planes, right? So single leg going forward, backwards, side, all right? Just make sure that you're giving yourself a wide variety of movement strategy so that you can challenge the lower limbs to allow you to be more athletic and to be functional over time for everyday use. All right, so let's talk about shoe wear, because let's face it, you're not gonna be walking outside just generally with no shoes on. Well, some people do, but it's not as practical, right? If you're working out at a regular, everyday LA Fitness or a gym that's, not like mine, public, you can work in some shoes that will allow your foot to be strong, be stable, and you want to do that over time. Now, if you're used to wearing these spongy, these high-heeled shoes with a narrow toe box, then once you go and adopt the barefoot shoe, you need to make sure that you are slowly increasing your volume of what you do inside of the shoe. So first off, just wear them in everyday use. Walk around in them. Don't do any high dynamic movements. Don't go and run miles with them. Start off by just walking in them and hanging out in them, right? Then from there, you can slowly progress. Now, the pros to wearing barefoot shoes, right? You're gonna improve your foot function. That's just case in point. There's not a lot of stability there. You have to stabilize yourself, right? So you have to use the extrinsic and intrinsic muscles of the feet to maintain that. Also, it's gonna increase your stability, right? So you're gonna use those muscles to maintain that stability and allow you to actually feel the ground as you go to walk, right? And lastly, strengthening up those muscles to allow you to produce force and absorb force, all right? The cons, however, it's going to increase pain or soreness if you're not used to wearing them. Again, if you've been spoiled by wearing spongy, very high-heeled shoes and you don't really feel the ground, every time you go to walk, it's obviously gonna be slightly bit painful. So you have to work in and try to gain a new stimulus and adapt to wearing these minimalistic shoes. I'll say this again, it needs to be slowly integrated. So if you're somebody who runs, and let's say runs daily, I would not just jump into a barefoot shoe and start running. Make sure you go a little bit more minimalistic, go to an 8mm drop, and then work your way down into a 0 drop shoe, right? This comes over time. Now, with that being said, I've been wearing Vivo Barefoot for well over 6 years now, and I can't tell you how many questions I get on what shoes are you wearing. Now, I usually aim for the Modus Strength. Now, I used to wear the Primus Light. I've made the transition to Modus Strength because it allows me to be strong and work in the weight room with the shoes, right? So I can feel the ground, I can do my dynamic movements, but I've been wearing these for 6 years. And before that, I was wearing other minimalistic shoes. So my body has adapted. My feet are stronger and my ankles are stable enough to be able to withstand those forces as I go to do more higher dynamic movements. Now, if you have a high arch, a very high arch, make sure that you're getting with a podiatrist to get you the adequate amount of arch support that you need in the beginning. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to have insoles for years on end, right? You should use an insole to help gain the function that you need for roughly 6 months to a year, and then go ahead and start to work in strengthening up the feet at that time. Try it out. Now, if you want, get your pair, make sure you go to vivobarefoot.com, get the discount code Daru20, and you get your discount for your new Modus Strength. So there it is, that's my take on it. You guys, strengthen up your feet, strengthen up your support system, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.